Our next presentation answers the question, are personalized offers the remedy for ineffective trade promotions? Our presenter is the always entertaining Graeme McVie, Vice President of Business Development for Pecima. Graeme, take it away.
Thank you, John. I always enjoy participating in your conference. It's a wonderful conference. I really enjoyed your trivia quiz that you've been going through today. I think you've got a future as a game show host. I think the last time I said you had a future as an NPR presenter, but this year I think a game show host might be the way for you to go. So
come on down.
So the topic that we're going to talk about today kind of conflates two interesting topics I hear a lot about in the industry, and I'm sure all of you do. There's a lot of different viewpoints out there about the effectiveness of trade promotions, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. There's also this concept of personalized offers, and a few people have touched on that throughout the course of the conference today. So we're going to talk about how those two things potentially interact today. And we've got a few different data points to share with you, and then we've got some interesting best practices as well. So there's my contact details. If any of you have got any questions after the conference, feel free to reach out. I love having interesting dialogue with peers from around the industry. And we're going to cover three topics. We're going to start by talking about trade promotions and look a little bit at the present state of trade promotions and why they need to change. I think if I understand the audience today, I think most people on the call today will have interesting viewpoints on the effectiveness of trade promotions. We could probably have a 3-hour lively debate on that topic in and of itself. The second topic we're going to talk about is personalized offers. Different people define personalized offers in different ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about personalized offers and how they perform and why they're important for the future. And then ultimately we're going to look at what should retailers and manufacturers do with regards to trade promotions and personalized offers. And we've got some very pragmatic and practical experiences to share with you that you could potentially take away and think about employing in your business. So we're going to start with the present state of trade promotions, and we're going to ask all of you to do a little bit of work here. We've got a polling question here that we'd like you to give us your perspective on, and we're asking how effective do you believe trade promotions are in meeting shopper needs and driving sales and profits? Now, I do want to just highlight the fact that we're talking about shopper needs and driving sales and profits. I would guess that if you ask this question, how effective are trade promotions at driving volume, we'd get a very different response. But we're actually looking for the two elements of meeting shopper needs and driving sales and profits. And we've got a scale of 5 there from the most effective lever down to the not at all effective. And obviously all of the people on the call today have some perspectives on this. So we'd love to just get your input on this and see the general consensus across the audience today. So, John, I think with that, can we publish the polling responses?
Yep, we can. They should be on the screen right now.
Oh, there we go. Yes, they come up. So, yeah, that's not entirely dissimilar to the perspective that we've seen in the industry. Obviously, there are different viewpoints out there based on different people's perspectives and opinions. And we've got a few people saying they're very effective and the same number saying they're not very effective. And then you've got a large group in the middle saying they are sometimes effective. And I think that is reflective of my experience of trade promotions. There are some of them that can be very effective and some that are not. And it varies by brand and by manufacturer and by retailer and time of year. There's a lot of different factors that come into that. If we look at a couple of data points that we've pulled out here, there's lots of different studies that have been done over the years on the effectiveness of trade promotion performance, and I'm sure a number of you have your own viewpoints. These were just two different reports that I pulled here. One was from BCG and HBR, and they identified that 20 to 50% of trade promotions generate no noticeable lift in sales and 20 to 30% dilute margins. And then there was another extensive study done by Nielsen, where they looked at maybe, I think it was over 1 million different promotions, and they found that 22% did not generate any sales lift at all, and then 66% of trade promotions did not break even. So it kind of backs up the viewpoint that you all shared with us through the polling, that some of them are effective, some of them are not, and there's a lot somewhere in the middle. There was another study conducted by the Promotion Optimization Institute where they actually surveyed a number of manufacturers and asked them how satisfied they are with the performance of trade promotions. And you can see here that it's a little bit more skewed towards being dissatisfied than the polling results that all of you shared with us. But you can still see there's a little bit of a distribution there, but it does tend towards the lower end of dissatisfied. What's really interesting about this slide here is there was 0 people that said extremely satisfied. And a good associate friend of mine in the industry did make the point that even the American Congress has 9% of the population thinking they're doing a good job, and here we have 0% thinking that they're extremely satisfied with trade promotion. So putting it into context, that's really quite a stark commentary from some of the manufacturers out there. So that's just a few quick data points about trade promotion performance. If we turn our attention now to personalized offers, we're going to look at how attractive personalized offers are. And again, I'm going to put a polling question out here and ask all of you to give me your viewpoints. We're looking here at how important do you believe personalized offers will be in the next 1 to 3 years? Are they going to be more? Are they going to become more important than trade promotions? As important as trade promotions? Important, but still less so than trade promotions? A little bit more important than today? No more important than today. And then, does anyone out there think they're a fad and then they'll go away? So those are the options. And again, we'd be interested in your perspectives on this topic based on your own experiences out there. So let me publish the results now. I think we've got enough responses in there. Wow, that is fascinating. So a number of you think that trade promotion, personalized offers are going to become more important than trade promos, and a good group of you think they'll become at least as important, but no responses. There's one response come in there that says no more important than today. So overwhelmingly, people think they are going to be important. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward. If we look at trade promotions, this is just the top 2 data points here are from that BCG and HBR article, and then the bottom one was also from that same report where they said that personalization increases ROI by 5 to 8 times when there's no personalization involved. What's interesting to me is if you look at the budgeting side of things, again, a lot of people will potentially have very different viewpoints in the market in terms of what percent of CPG revenues are allocated to trade promotions versus consumer or shopper promotions. The numbers on the screen are the ones that I have often heard referenced through the conversations I've had with manufacturers over the years. And even if the actual numbers are not specific, you can see that the trade promotion budget is orders of magnitude larger than the consumer or shopper promotions budget. So you've got the smaller part of the budget being allocated to the marketing lever that is going to drive the greatest ROI. And oftentimes when I'm talking to retailers and manufacturers about this topic of trade promotions versus personalized promotions, one of the topics that comes up is, well, personalized offers certainly have the greatest ROI, but they don't have the scalability to move the needle to the same degree as trade promotions. And if you want to move the needle on sales, trade promotion is the path to go. So there's a little bit of a dilemma going on there within the industry itself across both the retail and the manufacturer sides. The other element that we obviously want to take into account here is not just the retailer perspective and not just the manufacturer perspective, but it's really important to take into account the shopper perspective as well. We actually conducted a piece of primary market research. I think we had over 3,000 shoppers in the US that we surveyed, and we actually asked them, what is most important to them, and we gave them a list of a number of different options to choose, and we randomized the list and all those good things you do in good survey design, so it didn't skew the survey. And on the left here, we just grouped all the sort of elements that would typically be classified as traditional trade promotions, and then on the right in the green there, we classified the marketing vehicles that we typically call consumer or shopper promotions. And you can see here that paper flyers that are mailed out are still the most popular with the vast majority of consumers out there. It was the highest response rate with 38%, ranking that in the top 3. Number 2 on the list, though, was digital coupons that were emailed out. So that actually surprised me a little bit. I thought some of the other traditional trade promotions would be a little bit higher, And then you can see paper coupons that were mailed, and then loyalty card offers through digital were 20 and 19% respectively, both of which were higher than on-shelf in-store TPRs and paper flyers in the store. So obviously, shoppers are starting to value coupons and shopper promotions slightly more important than historically, but we should not forget the fact that mailed paper flyers are still of great importance to shoppers. So we can't make wholesale shifts. We have to take into account there's potentially an evolution that's taking place here. When we actually cut the data by different variables, we actually cut it by sort of generation and age, and then we also cut it by loyalty and by spend levels. And you can see here the sort of typical profile. I don't think this will come as a huge surprise to a lot of people that older generations that are less loyal and spend less have typically favored traditional trade promotions as being more important than personalized offers. And then if we flip over to personalized promotions, you actually see the other side of things. You see those younger generations. We looked again, it looked like people that were more tech-enabled, people that liked mobile apps and text messages and pay via mobile tended to value personalized promotions more highly. And then consumers that spend more also tended to value personalized promotions. So a little bit of a generational shift. And if you look at it purely by generation, we broke everyone out here into the major generational groupings that are popular. And you can see here that 70% of millennials rated personalized offers as more important than other generations. So you've got the three younger generations there in the green, the Gen X generation, millennials and Gen Z, all rating personalized offers highly, and the boomers and the pre-boomers are slightly lower. Obviously, the boomers and pre-boomers are very traditional, very loyal to their grocery store, and have typically had healthy spend levels over the years. But as time moves by and the younger generations become a bigger and bigger portion of the consumer base, with millennials, I think I read recently, millennials are now the largest generation in terms of absolute numbers, larger than the baby boomers now. So obviously you can't neglect the boomers and the pre-boomers. They're still an important part of the shopper universe, but evolution is taking place here, and we need to make sure that we're serving the younger generations as well, because they will become the mainstay of the shopper universe as we move forward. One other element that we looked at in the survey is that technology is driving further developments in grocery retailing. And again, there are big generational differences. And again, this sort of plays into the whole topic of the growing importance of personalization. On the left chart here, you can see that mobile and email offers are more relevant to the younger generations than the older generations. And then we also asked, what's your interest in receiving personalized offers through mobile devices? And again, there was a big difference there by generation between the younger and the older generations. And again, a couple of interesting stats that sort of jumped out from the research on the right there. Mobile shoppers, grocery spend is typically more than $550 a month, and shopping incomes of less than $35,000. Shopper income of less than $35,000, least likely to value mobile offers. So the profile of the shopper that values personalization and technology is very attractive. It's going to be a big group of people, and they typically spend more and are more loyal to their grocery store. So that's why we think that personalized offers are going to grow in importance, and why we think they could be the wave of the future, which does then beg the question of, well, what should retailers and manufacturers do? So as we look forward, what are some of the things that we can do? And I just wanted to put another polling question out here and get your input and perspective on the topic of how advanced do you think grocers are in using shopper data to drive decision making? I think this would be interesting to cut this by responses from people that work for grocery retailers and responses by people that work for their manufacturer trading partners. It would be interesting to see if they had the same perspective as each other, or if they had a different view, because you need to be fairly conversant with shopper data if you're going to start to move further down the path towards personalization. So it's important to understand how adept retailers are at using shopper data. So, there we have. We just published the polling result there. So, most people, some responses came back saying they were very advanced across most departments. Some said reasonably advanced in some departments. We oftentimes do see that. There are pockets of sophistication around shopper data in some retailers. And the largest response was that some use it but not regularly, and then also a lot of people saying it's fairly basic and it's rarely used. So a good smattering of responses. I think it does depend on what grocer you're thinking about when you give that response. There are definitely leaders in the industry that are doing some great work around shopper data and shopper insights and how you use that to drive decision making. And then there are some others that aren't quite as far forward with regard to using that data. So let's give a few examples of how retailers and manufacturers could think about using shopper data and how they should be thinking about moving forward. And I'm actually going to talk about 6 different topics here: stop, fix, slant. Those are all in relation to trade promotions. Relevance, incrementality, and scale. And those are all in relation to personalized offers. So I'm sure some of you can guess what some of these mean. So let's move into some of the examples here. So stop stands for stop non-performing promotions. I think it would be challenging to find any retailer or any manufacturer that would say universally every single promotion works well. Well, in order to identify the non-performing promotions, it is really important to perform post-promotion analysis, and there are definitely challenges with that, getting the data availability, having the time, the resources, the tools. And even if you do have the time and the data and the tools to do that, you then have to work out, well, what do we actually do with that going forward? You have to find the time to look at the insights and factor that into your forward-looking planning process. So this is just a quick example here. If you can actually perform scalable post-promotion analysis, then it does put you in a very strong position. So it's just a couple of examples from some of our client work. The left-hand side just shows you how you can scalably understand what's happening with each item in the weekly ad. And then on the right-hand side, we show an example here of how you can classify promotions into different buckets. And I just wanted to highlight something here. Compare the length of these 2 red boxes here. The red box at the top is an example of promotions that were categorized as continue to promote heavily or promote at the right time. So something's going well there. The 2 categorizations at the bottom, one is promote less and one is do not promote. And if you look at the length of that red box, it's almost twice as big as the top box. So there's almost twice as many promotions we're saying promote less or do not promote as compared to promote more or promote at the right time. So that in and of itself was really quite revealing that it's that order of magnitude between which promotions should you continue with and which ones should you stop. And on that point, I think it's really important that manufacturers and retailers are fully aligned on the evaluation process and the data and the insights, so that there's a debate about what to do rather than about are you using the right data and analysis. So it's really important that manufacturers and retailers are aligned on the approach there. Here's another example. So that was stop. Now we're looking at fix. So some of the promotions could work out well if they were just fixed in terms of the promotion mechanics. So in here we're just showing a chart that shows you the discount depth going off to the right and the volume, revenue, and gross profit % response and the vertical axis there. And the black line shows you how volume continues to increase with greater depth of discount. And this isn't a rocket science chart. I'm sure most people have seen charts like this before. And then if you layer on there, the blue line is the revenue and the green line is the gross profit. Well, at 40% discount depth, the overall volume begins to level off, and gross profits and revenue actually are both in negative territory at that. So if you actually start going to 50% discount there, you're going to get very nominal incremental volume, but you're giving away another 10% of the price, and that immediately impacts your revenue and your profit. And oftentimes I talk to category managers and trade marketing people, on the retail side and the manufacturer side, and I'll show them a chart like this, and they'll say, yeah, we kind of intuitively get that, but unless somebody actually gives us this information, we don't know how deep is too deep on the discount, or even how shallow is too shallow. So in this particular example, just by sharing this insight with the category manager and with the sales and trade marketing teams, you can very quickly see that you don't really need to go to a 40% discount. You can probably pull back and do like a 30% or 25%, You'll still get healthy volume, but you'll actually do a better job from a revenue and a gross profit perspective. So just putting these sorts of insights into the hands of the category managers and the trade marketing and sales teams allows them to make slightly more informed decisions and allows them to fix some promotions that are potentially not performing well but have the opportunity to improve their performance. The last element on the trade promotion side is about how you slant promotions. And what I mean by slant is when you look at the shoppers that respond to promotions, there are some promotions that disproportionately appeal to valuable or loyal customers, and there are some promotions that just result in either cherry picking or brand switching, which is not oftentimes the best overall approach. So this chart here just shows how you can categorize promotion performance in terms of value to best customers on the horizontal axis along the bottom there, and value to the overall category on the vertical axis there. And obviously, you need to make sure you're hitting your overall category targets at the same time as disproportionately rewarding your valuable and loyal customers. And you can see here, this is a coffee example where we had the Keurig K-Cups were disproportionately appealing to best customers when on promotion, but weren't doing quite as much for the overall category just because of the volume of the sales there. The Starbucks side of things was doing a great job on both, disproportionately appealing to best customers and driving good category response. Folgers was more a category driver, but not necessarily disproportionately appealing to best customers. And then private label ground coffee wasn't doing a whole heck of a lot on either dimension. So again, depending on what you're trying to achieve and what you're looking to do, you can slant your promotions more towards your best customers and get more of your best customers happy with the promotions that you're putting out there. One other way you can slant your promotions, and this is a slightly different look at the data, you can also slant your promotions in terms of the discount depth. So your discount depth can also be designed for your loyal shoppers or your brand loyal consumers. So again, this one just shows you the discount depth going off to the right, and it shows you the sales dollars. The black line here is sales dollars across all customers. So at 40% overall revenue begins to decrease in this particular example if you look at it by all customers. But if you actually look at it by breaking it out into different tiers of customers, and here we broke it out in terms of priority customers, secondary customers, and low-value customers. So there was a mechanism in place here for how you identified your priority customers based on absolute spend and share of spend and frequency of visit and a whole bunch of factors like that. And if you break it out on that basis, you can actually see that when you get to about a 20 to 30% discount, the sales from your priority customers start to level off. So your priority customers don't actually value a very deep discount on this item. They're perfectly happy responding to a 20, 25, 30% discount depth. Whereas if you look at the red line there, once it gets past 30%, that really does seem to drive increased interest from the low-value customers in this promotion. So you potentially, instead of doing a buy one, get one free at a 50% discount, you could pull back and do a buy two, get one free at a 33% discount. And that would save you some trade funds and potentially allow you to run a second promotion that would, again, disproportionately reward your valuable, loyal shoppers rather than some of the lower value cherry pickers or brand switchers that might be out there. So when we talk about slant, that's what we're talking about, slanting the actual promotions themselves and the promotion mechanics towards your priority customers. If we start looking more on the personalization side, we have the topic of relevance is incredibly important, and this is one of these areas where I think we've still got some ways to go as an industry. If you look at historically how it's worked, it started off with, I have offers, let's find customers for those offers. And when I talk to retailers and manufacturers, they say, well, there's limited offer bank and there's rules management, and we don't get the response that we would like. Ultimately, a better approach that we have seen from a relevance standpoint is to move to a process where you look at, for this customer, what are the content and offers that are relevant for that individual customer. And if you build up that, what's called a total store offer bank at the customer level, then you can get much greater relevance through the promotions that you have available to deploy from a personalization standpoint. So it's really important that personalization evolves and the relevance factor continues to increase, because there's been a number of retailers I've spoken to where they'll say, well, one of the challenges we have is we have several million customers, but we only have an offer bank of 400 offers. How can you be relevant to all your customers when you've only got a small number of offers? So there is some evolution that probably needs to take place on the personalization side. When it comes to personalized pricing, that's another side of things that could improve from a relevance standpoint. The topic of personalized pricing is an interesting one. It's got a lot of debate in the industry, and it causes a little consternation in some cases if it's not conveyed in the right way, not communicated in the right way. But this just gives you an example of how effective it can be in the way you can potentially deploy it. You could have a situation where you could say, well, the shelf price, that's the right shelf price for 90% of your shoppers is $1.99, and if you have $1.99 on the shelf, then you see volume sales and gross profit dollars increasing. Well, what happens to the 10% of shoppers that don't want to pay $1.99? Maybe they only want to pay $1.89, or as low down here as $1.65. So do you choose to put $1.99 on the shelf and say, okay, there's 10% of shoppers, they're just not going to be happy, and that's the way things are? Or do you say, well, maybe we should drop the shelf price and give up a whole lot of sales and profits for the 90% of shoppers just to keep all our shoppers happy? So that's a little bit of a dilemma for you if you're trying to think about shelf pricing and how that works. But if you employ personalized pricing and you understand what is the value currently of an individual shopper and the potential value, and what's your strategy at the customer level in terms of, are you trying to defend and retain a customer, retain and grow? There's a lot of different intents you might have out there. Well, you can actually then work out, well, depending on how important they are and what you're trying to do, you could actually deliver a personalized price to them via a consumer promotion. And it could be delivered via email or an app, or it could be a paper-based coupon. There's lots of different ways to do it. But this allows you to make sure you're getting the right shelf price for 90% of your shoppers to maximize sales and profits in that forum, and also keeping your 10% of shoppers happy with the right personalized price delivered through the right delivery mechanism that is most relevant for them as well. So that's a little bit of a complicated analytical process, but it is possible to do that. And we've got a few proof points of where we've done that, and it's worked in a very effective way to drive both shopper satisfaction and hit your sales and profit targets as well. On the incremental side, we talked a lot about relevance. Relevance is really important. There's an easy way to drive relevance. The easy way to drive relevance is to just give people thank you offers for products they already buy. Okay, so you buy, the Tide 100 count, I'm going to give you 10% off. Well, I was probably going to buy Tide 100 count next week anyway because I buy it every week or every month. I've just rewarded you for your loyalty, which is great. But the problem with that is it doesn't drive incremental sales for that person because they're already a loyal customer. So it's important to get the right balance between relevance and profitability. So you need a combination of offer types, and those need to vary by customer. So some customers might get a whole lot of thank you rewards and offers because they're very loyal to you. But there might be others where you're looking at trying to drive incremental sales through cross-sell and upsell, or improve category penetration, or support brand objectives from the manufacturer, or you might want to drive total spend and frequency. And then you have to incorporate all of that into customer-driven offers for the personalized process. And the way to try and do that is to employ something called offer optimization, where you have your total store offer bank, as you can see on the left, and then you have your content and channel bank. And if you have offer optimization in place, then you can actually work out for each individual what's the right content, the right creative, the right offers, the right offer mix, and the right channel of delivery for each individual customer. And if you can do that, then you're very far down the path towards not only driving relevance, but also driving incrementality to make sure that the ROI is as attractive as possible. The final part is scale. I mentioned this earlier on in the presentation. It's important to build scalability into the funding and overall process, and I'm sure everyone on the phone is very familiar with this. In the CPG side, you've kind of got the brand media funds, then you've got your consumer promotions, then your trade promotions, and then those funds and those levers and vehicles have a way of making themselves to the shoppers. So if you think about the media side, it goes through some agencies, ad buyers, media planners, it goes through the traditional media, TV, print, and so on, and that's how the shoppers are communicated with in that regard. On the consumer promotion side, you've oftentimes got some third-party partners that are involved, and then you get FSIs and coupons that go out. And again, those are sent directly to the shoppers, and shoppers typically receive them through their mailbox or through their apps or their email or via different websites. And then you've got the trade promotion side. It goes through the CPG sales team across the retailer Catman team, and then it goes through in-store trade promotions. The shoppers experience those promotions in the store. So those are the traditional approaches. If you think about it from the personalization side of things, the retailer has their own approach. They have their own marketing team, and then a lot of the time they have their own internal efforts around personalized offers. And the challenge is there's not a lot of connection between the manufacturers and the retailer marketing team. Oftentimes it still has to go through the category management team, and there's not the same scalable process or scalable funding as there is around trade promotion. So there's some work that needs to be done from an industry perspective on aligning those processes a little better and making sure the funding flows more appropriately to some of those personalized offers, because if you don't get the funding and the process, then you can't get the scalability on the personalized offer side. So there's some work still to be done there on the industry side of things. And then just from our perspective, what we've seen, if you look at it, the first three buckets here are mainly focused on the retailer side of things. If you do go down the path of incorporating shopper data and insights and more personalization, loyalty programs, a traditional vehicle for that, shopper marketing, another one. If you can extend it over to merchandising, then you magnify the ROI, and you really get the big bang for the buck if you can line up with suppliers and make sure all the supplier funding and the supplier objectives line up with the retailer. And if you can get that collaboration going around personalization, then you really could see personalized offers not only driving ROI, but also driving the scalability side of things. So with that, I just wanted to leave you with three little takeaways here. On the trade promotion side of things, we're not saying that you shouldn't do trade promotions. We're saying that you should stop non-performing promotions, fix promotion mechanics where possible, and then design trade promotions for loyal shoppers. So stop, fix, slant. And then on the personalization side, we need to make sure that you can deliver personalized prices and offers to key shoppers, and we need that scalability and the collaboration process to make sure there's sufficient funding to drive the sales impact as well as the relevance. So you need that relevance, the incrementality, and you need the scalability in order to make personalization work as well as it possibly can. So those were the final little takeaways that I wanted to leave you with. And we actually published a white paper. You can go to our website and download that white paper where we talk in a little bit more detail about the subject matter that we've covered in this webinar today. And with that, I'm going to throw open to Q&A.
Sure, we've got a couple questions, Graeme. One, how effective will personalized offers be in the face of 33% to 50% lower prices at some retailers like Aldi's?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Obviously, shoppers that shop at Aldi's are kind of self-selecting into that value proposition. As we all know, different retailers have different value propositions out there. There's a portion of the shopper universe are shopping mainly or primarily on the basis of lower prices and don't really care about the other elements of the value proposition. If you look at a retail like Whole Foods, the people that shop at Whole Foods are going there for the experience and the quality and all those different elements. If you look at a retail like Publix, they're held up as a great retail for customer service. There's a lot of different retailers out there with different elements of value proposition. So on Aldi, obviously they have a great approach with lower prices, and that appeals to some customers. I think as you see what's happening in other markets, Aldi and Lidl are typically tapping out at a certain percent of the market share in the shopper universe in different countries. You just look at the UK, for example, they're sort of maxing out around about 10-11% in the marketplace, and I think you'll potentially see them being perfectly happy with that, but there will be shoppers that will not value that experience and the customer service and the quality of products and will self-select into other areas. My own viewpoint is that the retailers that will be most successful in the marketplace are the ones that satisfy shopper needs the best, and at some point Aldi is going to have to learn how to move beyond just low prices and expand their value proposition if they want to keep growing their market share. I think they've still got a lot of runway. Let's be honest about that. But it's entirely possible that personalised offers will not be as relevant for Aldi for quite some time to come. But if you think about firing on all cylinders of the value proposition with price, promo, assortment, the planograms in the store, customer service, the brand proposition, all those different elements, any retailer that's doing the absolute best they can across multiple different elements of those are going to be best positioned to be successful. And I think Aldi will tap out at a certain point of the market share. And I can't see Aldi stealing too many shoppers away from Whole Foods. They're going to eat into some of the other players that are out there. But if you look at someone like Kroger, who is doing a great job of with their organics offering, they're actually being a fairly formidable competitor to Whole Foods. So the leading retailers, I think, will always be competitive. But I don't know if Aldi will go down that path, because you need a unique customer identifier to be able to be effective with personalized offers.
Okay, our last question. Has anyone executed personalized pricing, and isn't there a big PR risk with doing so?
Yes, and yes. Definitely. I mean, if you're standing in the line at the grocery store and the person in front of you is paying less than you are for their gallon of milk, I could see a big PR backlash to that. But I think that sort of thing happens already. There are other industries where it happens already. Obviously, in the airlines and the hotels industry, it happens a lot. I don't think people are quite as willing to accept that in retail as it is in airlines or hotels. But I definitely think there are examples out there with personalized offers and coupons and electronic flash sales and things like that, and rewarding people for loyalty. I mean, you look at a lot of the work that is happening these days with the e-commerce space, and there's a lot of people are doing that. And if you actually look at what's happening with some of the leaders in grocery, I mean, again, Kroger's held up as a great example of sending out personalized offers, and so is Safeway with Just For You and a few others. They're all held up as great leaders in regard to personalized offers. The element of personalized pricing is a little challenging because it requires you to bring together two distinct analytical capabilities. You need the customer analytics and you need the econometric modeling for the price elasticity. You need to be able to combine both of those. So those capabilities exist. We've done it with our clients. So what we can do is develop an individual price file for every item for each individual customer and have that sitting there available for use. And then you still have the right shelf price that you generate, but you've also got the ability to, that example I shared a minute ago with the 10% of customers, if you know the optimal price for each individual customer, then you can execute the personalized pricing. And as far as I've seen, I don't think there's anyone out there really in the grocery space that is personalizing pricing to each individual customer. I think it's the best I've seen is at the segment level. But I may not have access to all the right information, but it is possible. If you do it in the right way, you can avoid the PR backlash, you can keep your loyal customers happy, and make sure you're still getting the right shelf price out there as well.
Okay, Graeme, thank you very much. That was excellent. That was a wealth of information, and in a short period of time, I do appreciate it. So for more information, you can visit Pecima.com, and there's Graeme's contact information on the screen, his phone number and his email address, to ask him other questions or to follow up on this presentation, which was just outstanding. Thank you very much, Graeme.
Thanks, John.